not seen yourself on all the billboards all over.
That I have not, but I've had friends of mine that have sent those to me, and obviously making fun of the fact that I was photoshopped in as tan. So no, that would be very unusual. I haven't seen them. So I haven't been driving around much. So yeah, I haven't experienced the traffic yet.
At Cincinnati, you had built winning teams consistently with guys who developed there. They got better as the years went on. Not necessarily all the high profile recruits that UCLA has. They've done it differently here. Do you look for a combination of the two, or
Yes.
do you think it's going to be different?
No, I think you almost have to.
Yeah.
Like I would point to Duke, their last title, where they had Quinn Cook,
Yeah.
who I pointed that out to him the other day when they were here a couple weeks ago when they were practicing to play the Clippers.
Yeah.
And I was over there seeing Jacob Evans, who played for me. Anyway, they had Quinn Cooks, a senior. They wouldn't have won that title without him. I'm sure Coach K would agree. And another guy that's still in the NBA that I know well is Darius Miller. He's a senior starter for Kentucky when they won one. So I think you got to have a mix of players. I don't. Not to say the Fab Five could never happen again, but they didn't win it.
Right.
So I think you got to have a mix. I think more important than how long somebody's here is what they do while they're here. So that being said, there are players in recruiting that are going to be elite when they're 24 years old.
Yeah.
So but because of their skill set and their size, would it have been, Alex? What you guys would know? What's it, EK? How much? And good for him. He was able to go in the first round, and I've heard he's had some injuries. So, I think if you're going to get a guy that's going to be 1 year or two, you got to make sure that they're going to help you win while they're here for a year or two.
Right.
Because there are those guys that are going to be much better when they're 24, like a Trevor Ariza had an unbelievable career. I can't remember how much he helped the year he was here. Was he here a year?
Yes.
Just one. I tried to recruit him. I remember watching it going to Westchester and watching Ed Azam run practice. Get a guy that can impact while he's here.
Yeah. Keep on moving would be
Another one. He had a very positive impact. And what a great guy. I met him too at that practice. So you got to juggle it, but and I think the hardest part of it though is if you get from like it happened to me once at Cincinnati, when you get a guy that you may think is going to be 3 years, he ends up 1 year.
Yeah.
And this is for all of us now. Obviously, certain places that maybe hopefully you can get some of the more elite players. If you lose a guy before, like an EK, I'm sure Steve didn't think that was going to happen. Right. And then it's hard to, in the late signing period, there's only so many guys out there.
Right.
That's the hardest part of that, I would think, it happened to me with Jacob Evans.
Yeah.
So we had a great season this past year back at Cincinnati, and if we'd have had him on that team, we could have had who knows how special our year would have been, but we didn't see, he didn't see himself as a guy that would go pro early. He wasn't ranked ever in the top 100 in the country. So it happens. That's why college basketball is so wild.
Coach, what's been your impressions of the workouts?
The guys have been great, but the thing about workouts is you're undefeated. The thing about workouts and preseason practice is it's a great time for everybody to get excited. And if you don't look good in workouts, you're really in trouble. You got to try to envision yourself. Okay, so like Kenneth, like I'll look like up on the board. So like Kenneth Newby, he's huge, and I look at him, and I compare him to some guys, and I know he didn't play a lot here last year, but he's huge. He's got good hands. He's got a great attitude. He's got tremendous strength. But then I got to start. Okay, what does he need to do to get more minutes? So what maybe stopped him from getting more minutes? His lateral quickness, things we got to work on with him to be able to get him to translate into a real game setting. Cody Riley's like up there on the board. Obviously, you know, Cody can score. He's got a great nose for attacking the basket. He's a confident offensive player. Okay, what are the areas he needs to improve on? As you know, you go back, you watch a little bit of film. So yeah, but yeah, if you're not happy with workouts in our business, you're in real trouble. You know, everybody loves their team in preseason practice and all-season workouts. I mean, if you don't like them, then I don't know when it's a love affair between coaches and players in all-season workouts. It really is. So you got to try. But I've been around them enough now to try to. I think like for me, it's just been more about a chance to be with them, to develop our relationship.
Sure.
That's the most important thing. I mean, sure, we're trying to create some habits because of the quarter system, which, by the way, I did not know we were on until after I took the job.
Really?
I did not. I knew Oregon was on the quarter system. And being friends with Ben more, like, and talking, I was friendly with Steve. Like, it never came up for whatever reason. It never came up. I really didn't know. But it's been great just for me to be around them. Because, you know, if not, then you get the job and you have a couple weeks and they're gone for a month. You know, so that just to developing relationships is part of being good. But they've all been working hard. Tiger's back to where he's moving more.
I was going to say what his.
Yeah, I figured you got, you know, so David's out of the boot and his foot is healing. He's not back working out yet, but he's back to where he can. Actually, I felt bad for him, you know, trying to get around campus on the, you know, scooting around. But Tiger's back to where he's on the floor. But there's no point in us rushing him at all. It's May. So I always say this, you can't win games in the off season, but you can lose them by getting guys hurt. So in the off season, academics and keeping your team healthy and training your team through your strength and conditioning program to get them to the point where they stay healthy during the season. But you can lose games in the off season. I believe that, you know, but you do the wrong things, you push guys in the wrong way too hard. You got to make sure you got to get your guys healthy. Our sports become so year round. It's almost too, even at the high school level. And all you got to do is you're online following and recruiting. These kids are.
No.
It's too much. I mean, they're at a tournament every weekend. It's ridiculous. I mean, it really is. It's too much for them. They need. There's a reason there's way more. There was no such thing as microfracture surgery in the '80s.
Right.
You know. But back when Coach Wooden would say goodbye, and I'd see you when school starts, right? I mean, it's so you got to make sure you get guys healthy. So anyway, Tiger's doing well, but we're not pushing him at all. But he is back on the floor.
He'll be back in time for the season.
Oh yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Okay.
Is Sharif 100%?
He's back doing workouts. With Sharif, it's just so like what'll happen, he'll go through in a workout, he'll stop him like his conditioning when you do. Probably like us if we went to play. Like when you go from just not doing anything to trying to play in basketball, change, stop and go, contact, full workouts, and so it's almost, you know, like the thing about 0 to 60. So he's just got to, like he's being, you know, he's obviously got monitors all over him, but you know, obviously he's been cleared, he wouldn't be out there. It's just a matter of getting his wind back up and his strength down. But you know, he lost 25 pounds. But more that'll come. More important is just his wind and his condition. But he's and then how much does he push himself? So he's just working through it all. But he's been great. Really impressed with his skill level. You know, his dad was a power guy. No, I'm sure his dad will get on me for that. He was power and skill. But I'm really impressed with his touch and his footwork. Because I hadn't seen him play. The other guys, I had seen them all. He was the one guy I really never saw Sharif play.
When coaches were talking about what this job is in the interim when they were looking at coaches, the one thing a lot of them said was it's still a great job, but they have to start chartering planes. Have you gotten any assurances on that?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a fallacy that they didn't charter. Now that I've seen the records, they did charter.
Yeah.
I think the difference between now is commitment to chartering everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think the more important, like for me, was A to what I would say A to Z commitment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a lot more maybe have been made of that than it was really true.
Well, so you don't think it's important to charter?
Oh no, I do.
Okay.
But I don't think it's important to charter for luxury purposes.
Well, but like for academic and rest
I
purposes.
would say academics more.
Okay.
Because on a charter you can bring extra. If you got your own charter, you bring extra tutors, and obviously with Pac-12 travel, right? So yeah, because you got 2 game road trips.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, it's important.
Well,
I don't, but I think they chartered more maybe than you guys knew. I don't know. I don't know what you knew.
Yeah.
But I've
How
seen.
about for like recruiting? Because I know Steve
That would be the second
Steve would
piece.
have to leave practice early, miss practice.
Oh, for coaches to
Yeah,
recruit.
for coaches recruiting. Yeah.
Again, I can't speak to what happened, but I've met with people. I would never use a private plane to go recruit if I could. Not that I'm the head of the environmentalist group, PAC, but yeah, you know, like I went up to Vegas and to recruit, and they asked me if I needed a private plane. I was like, why would I do that? I mean, there's 1 million Southwest flights up and back.
But the point is, they ask you.
Yes. Yeah, that's not an issue. To this point, like we had a big recruiting weekend, and we already have, you know, so we have multiple boosters and people that are willing to help. Now, again, I don't know. I can't speak to what. A lot of them said they did help Steve, but I don't. You know, I don't know. But as far as the team, I think it's more important the team, way more important than me. Academics, recruiting. So if you're recruiting against other people, and it's just not charter though. It's as you guys are, you know, facilities. Players are worried about. And the third part is where they live. It's something I've been working on as well, making sure we get the best housing situation on our campus or surrounding our campus. Housing, how you travel, your locker room. Like players are, and other than that, is their number available? That's like the things that players are worried about.
Yeah.
Housing, you know, it's more of, it's less than your arena than you would, you know, fans like, oh, where they play.
Yeah.
Recruits care about housing. They care about their locker room. They care, and then I've never had a recruit ask about charter, to be honest with you. But I think if it was an issue, a school would use it against you for sure. In our business, you know, it's no holds barred in recruiting, so that's not an issue anymore.
Speaking of recruiting, do you have the mindset right now that you have 1 scholarship to give left?
Yes.
Okay.
2 more questions.
How big of a concern is this APR situation?
Oh, I think it's always a concern. I'm still getting my head around our current situation. But again, just day to day is all I can deal with. You know, we have, so you'll get to know me. Like, so I'm more concerned about the players individually. I think so if you focus on the right things as a coach, your players need to graduate and they need to learn. Even if a guy's going to be, say a guy's going to be here for 1 year. Lance Stevenson played for me for 1 year. He left Cincinnati with a 3.4. He never missed a class. I think that has to be what you're about, and then everything will work itself out. So my message to the guys is what's best for them. And I think what they get told too much on the outside is that it's not mutual. That it is mutually exclusive. It's not. What's best for them is what's best for the program. Becoming responsible, handling your business academically, being professional, being courteous, developing the right habits. If you do all those things, everything else will take care of itself for you. If you don't do those things, they eventually will become a problem for you. But as far as the details of our situation, obviously, you know, I know it came out in the media. So how do I rectify that? By doing what I just told you. So if you focus on the individual player and what's best for that player, and then as a steward of the program, going forward, if you bring in a guy that's is probably not going to be here for more than a year or two, that they understand on the front end part of their responsibility of being here is to make sure that they're in good standing and they do what's. But again, it's not mutually exclusive. You know, because if I was Pat Riley, I would want to draft a guy that was a responsible person while he was in college.
I think the guys who left, did they all leave in good standing, the 3 guys going to the NBA?
I don't really know if I'm even allowed to discuss that.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as, you know, getting into a guy's I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but even if I was, I don't think I'm allowed to go there, you know, with a guy's individual academic standing.
We're,
What about your,
Plus, it'd be really complicated to go into what factored in. I want you to do an APR report for me. What connotates good standing? Oh, you got to get one. 'Cause
Where are you right now on the standing of your coaching staff and filling that out right now?
Close to being done. So now the non-coaching staff positions are hard, or they take more time, right? Because you can't have you have to. The coaching staff ones, you're allowed to do like emergency hire stuff, so they don't have to be posted forever. In my world, forever. Like I need everybody here yesterday, but so non-coaching staff stuff, I'm not in as big a hurry with. Plus, it has to be posted for a certain length of time. So I wish I could have it all done so my phone would quit ringing. But as far as third assistant coach, very close, extremely close.
You said at your introductory press conference it gave you a month to kind of set your expectations for the team. Where are you with that right now, would you say?
I was hoping you'd forget that. You know, but you'll get to know. So I'm a movie guy, so you get to know me. So I'm a day by day. Mm-hmm. My expectations right now for the guys is we got 3 weeks left, and in our term is to every day we become more responsible with our habits, because I just think that translates to our success or lack of success on the court. I just believe in that. And you do the right things in your daily routine, and you practice what I call eating your vegetables. You know, which it's easy to stay up late, eat pizza in college, and sleep in and miss class. You know, you got to eat your vegetables. You got to get up. You got to go to class. You got to strength train. You got to get with the tutors. You got to do what you're supposed to do. So, like, that's my focus. But I know your answer. Like, you want me to tell you how we're going to win, how many games we're going to win next season. I got no answer. I would still say, you know, obviously, I always say you never know what's going to happen with transfers, academics, or lunacy. Because you never know, guys could walk in and start transferring. So to answer your question, to try to help you, is based on all these guys are here and everybody's healthy. You know, I pray that that's the case, and our success will be based upon whether we share the ball, we buy into sharing the ball, we buy into playing defense and rebounding, and we understand the most important thing in basketball: what's a good shot. And just so you know, Ben, what's a good shot for me and you's different. I've heard about, I got a lot more I can make than you. See, some guys, Myron thinks a good shot's whenever he can get off. Some guys have Myron's mentality. I call it, that's what they call the sports mall mentality. Them guys are 35, they think when they cross half court it's a good shot.
Well, watching you guys over the years, one thing that struck, I think, a lot of people in this town is your teams were just tougher than UCLA. I mean, you could visibly see that.
Well, 3 years ago we weren't, though. They beat us in SAC.
Yeah, but they still. How do you get that? How do you ingrain that culture here?
Yeah, we don't. I think what we would talk about, I've never discussed like being tougher. I just think you got to be able to do things that are not easy, is what we would talk about. It's hard. So I have a thing that the guys will get, and that it's when the season starts. So it's easy to take a bad shot. It's hard to be good enough to break your man down and get fouled. So you would equate that to things. So it's easy to get blocked out, right? It's hard to beat the block out. It's easy to get beat on D. It's hard. You would equate that they're just tougher because they do things that are harder to do. So we don't talk about it in terms of just toughness. It's about it's hard to be a good player. It's hard to carve out any NBA career. Right now, guys, you got a bunch of young guys. They're really young last year. And defense, I would tell you, they were extremely young last year. A very young basketball team. And back to the original question, like when we played TJ Leaf, I could show you, I know that I showed Nasir Brooks a clip of TJ moving him out of the way for a rebound. Who he was clearly the tougher guy. He did the harder thing. He carved out space there. And why we lost that game. Like I showed our guys where I thought in that game they were tougher than us. Now you could say, well, they had a more weight. You know, they had 2 NBA guys coming off the bench. I get all that, but in coaching, that doesn't matter. You either get it done or you don't. So you got to be tough enough to get the job done, whatever the job may be. Setting a screen, tough enough to get your feet set to make open shots, you know. So just ingraining that, but it's not like I come in and talk to our guys about being tough. It's about doing things right, okay, and being willing to put in the work to do things the right way. I think you got to explain to young people why Reggie Miller was a great shooter. It wasn't just because he put in a lot of time and sweat. He did it right. His fundamentals were correct. He worked on footwork. He didn't just come in and put music on and shoot shots. So to answer your question, like with Chris Smith, his footwork. Why is his shooting percentage low? Like we've already had this talk. And why was Reggie Miller's high? When you have the ability to make shots, you know, we got to break down what needs to change. So anyway, I appreciate you saying that about my teams, but I just think you can't be easily defeated. I think the best teams, they don't give up layups. They don't take bad shots. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just not. I mean, it's really not. And I'll tell you, like the other day, I talked to our guys in our last workout about Toronto game 7. If Kyle Lowry got in the fourth quarter, I don't know if he didn't make a jump shot. He had 3 offensive rebounds and a steal to seal the win. Really, then they missed a free throw, but it would have been the seal. But he had 3, here's a point guard who was an unbelievably talented guy. I don't know if he's a max guy, but he's close to a max contract guy. But here he is getting 3 offensive rebounds and getting a steal. So, like people say, well, they don't play hard in the NBA. That's people that don't watch the NBA. And kids, when you talk about the NBA, kids will listen. they listen more. So we'll show NBA film, talk about the pros. So like that's the stuff I talk to them about. You know, here's a guy that's a max contract guy. He's 6 foot and he's in there getting offensive rebounds. Or Toronto probably loses that game.
Yeah, I'm sure all everyone wants to talk about is Kawhi's last shot, but you're saying it's
And that's everybody else wants to talk about the jump shot. You know, it's scoring and shooting is a very small part of our game. And you have to impart that upon your teams to have any chance to win. I mean, if all you're going to do is worry about who shoots and how much they shoot and whether the ball goes in, you're not going to be very good. That's easy. You got to do things that are hard.
Good deal, Coach.